And in the quiet town of Elderton, nestled amidst dense forests and rolling hills, a peculiar mystery had long haunted the local police department. An elderly man, Mr. Harold Thompson, had been a regular visitor to the station for years, persistently inquiring about his stolen 1965 Volkswagen Type 2, a classic microbus affectionately known as the VW base. Despite the passage of decades since its disappearance, Mr. Thompson's unwavering determination to recover the vehicle piqued the curiosity of many, especially given that he had already been compensated by his insurance company. His relentless pursuit suggested that the van held more than just monetary value. The Volkswagen Type 2, introduced in the 1950s, became an iconic symbol of freedom and adventure. Its versatile design made it a favorite among travelers, families, and even businesses. Over the years, it garnered a dedicated following, with enthusiasts cherishing its unique charm and historical significance. For Mr. Thompson, the van was not merely a mode of transportation, but a vessel of cherished memories. Each week, Mr. Thompson would visit the police station, his eyes reflecting a blend of hope and desperation. He would approach the desk, clutching a faded photograph of the blue VW bus, and ask if there had been any news. So the officers, familiar with his routine, would patiently inform him that the van remained on the missing list and that no new leads had emerged. They assured him that if the vehicle surfaced, be it through a sale or a routine check, it would trigger an alert in their system. However, as years turned into decades, the likelihood of such an event seemed increasingly slim. Despite their reassurances, the police were not actively searching for the van, resources were limited, and with no fresh leads, dedicating manpower to a decades-old case was impractical. So they tried to convey this reality to Mr. Thompson, explaining that the van could be anywhere, submerged in a lake, dismantled in a scrapyard, or hidden away in someone's private collection. Yet Mr. Thompson remained undeterred, his insistence hinting at a deeper significance attached to the vehicle. The officers couldn't help but speculate about his motives. Why was he so fixated on this particular van? Was it a rare model worth a fortune? Did it contain something valuable or incriminating? For their curiosity was tempered by the demands of their daily duties, and without concrete evidence of foul play or hidden treasures, the case remained a low priority. Then, in a twist of fate, a breakthrough occurred. A hiker exploring a remote section of the nearby forest stumbled upon an old, dilapidated van, its once vibrant blue paint now faded and peeling. Recognizing the vehicle's age and the improbability of its presence in such an isolated area, the hiker reported the find to the local authorities, noting that the forest was a protected area and that the van's removal might be necessary. When the report reached the police station, it initially seemed like a routine matter. However, upon running the license plate number through their system, the officers were astonished to discover that it matched Mr. Thompson's long-lost VW bus. The realization that the van had been hidden so close to town all these years was both surprising and perplexing. Faced with this revelation, the officers deliberated on their next steps. Standard protocol dictated that they should inform Mr. Thompson immediately. However, given the peculiar circumstances surrounding the van's disappearance and Mr. Thompson's persistent interest, they decided to investigate further before notifying him. They were determined to uncover the true reason behind his relentless quest. Equipped with a tow truck, 2 officers ventured into the forest to retrieve the van. The journey was arduous as the dense underbrush and lack of clear paths made navigation challenging. After considerable effort, they located the van, its once iconic silhouette, now a mere shadow of its former glory. The vehicle was in a state of disrepair, with moss-covered windows and rust eating away at its frame. Despite its decrepit condition, the officers were eager to inspect the interior, hoping to find clues that would explain Mr. Thompson's obsession. They managed to pry open the corroded doors, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. Inside, the van appeared unremarkable at first glance: worn seats, a cracked dashboard, and remnants of a bygone era. However, a thorough search revealed a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. So with bated breath, the officers opened the compartment only to find a small, weathered photo album. Curious, they flipped through its pages, revealing a collection of photographs depicting a younger Mr. Thompson with a woman and 2 children. The images captured moments of joy, family picnics, beach outings, and holiday celebrations. It became evident that the van had been an integral part of these cherished memories. Realizing the sentimental value of the album, the officers understood why Mr. Thompson had been so desperate to recover the van. But it wasn't about the vehicle itself, but the tangible connection it provided to his lost loved ones. The van was a time capsule preserving the essence of a life that had long since faded. So before they could process their findings, the sound of an approaching vehicle broke the forest's silence. To their surprise, Mr. Thompson emerged, his face a mixture of relief and apprehension. He had somehow discovered their mission and had come to claim what was rightfully his. Confronted by the officers, Mr. Thompson confessed that he'd had hidden the van in the forest decades earlier to preserve it after it broke down and he couldn't afford repairs. Over time, life had moved on, but the van remained a repository of his most treasured memories. When he finally sought to retrieve it, he found it missing, not realizing that he had missed. Mr. Thompson, now standing before the two officers, seemed overwhelmed with emotion, but his frail hands trembled as he reached out for the van. His eyes locked onto the rusted frame like he was seeing a long-lost friend. The officers, still processing everything they had uncovered, exchanged glances before stepping aside, allowing the elderly man to move closer. As he approached, he ran his fingers over the faded blue paint, his touch delicate, reverent. Then, without hesitation, he opened the van's door, stepping inside as if he had been transported back in time. His eyes scanned the interior, searching for something specific, something the officers hadn't yet discovered. "I knew you'd find her," he muttered under his breath, his voice barely above a whisper. One of the officers, Officer Reynolds, finally broke the silence. "Mr. Thompson, we found this." He extended the weathered photo album, its edges frayed and its cover softened with age. Thompson's breath hitched as he took the album into his hands. He flipped it open, his fingers carefully tracing the images of his wife, his children, their laughter forever captured in time. The room fell silent except for the soft rustle of the pages turning. Tears welled up in his eyes, spilling over as he chuckled, a painful, bittersweet sound. "You don't understand," he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "This van, it's not just a car to me. It's where my family lived, loved, and laughed. It's where I held my wife's hand for the last time before she passed." Each of the officers listened intently, their skepticism fading into sympathy. They had expected treasure, crime, or something sinister. Instead, they found the remnants of a man's past, a love story frozen in time. "Then," he sighed, "but there's something else, something even you haven't found yet." Both officers straightened, curiosity reignited. "What do you mean?" Reynolds asked. Mr. Thompson took a deep breath. "Look under the front passenger seat." Without hesitation, the second officer, Rodriguez, stepped inside and carefully removed the torn upholstery of the seat. With a sharp tug, the fabric gave way, revealing a metal compartment beneath. It had rusted over the years, but the latch remained intact. Rodriguez exchanged a glance with Reynolds before prying it open. Inside, they found an old, tattered leather pouch. Reynolds carefully pulled it out and unzipped it, revealing a stack of aged documents, some yellowed with time, others brittle at the edges. Alongside them sat an antique pocket watch, its gold surface dulled by years of neglect. Mr. Thompson's eyes shimmered as he reached for the watch. "This belonged to my father," he murmured. "He gave it to me before he left for the war and never came back." The officers watched in silence as the old man gently turned the timepiece over in his hands. His thumb traced an engraving on the back, one they hadn't noticed before. "Until we meet again." A silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken grief and understanding. Officer Reynolds finally spoke. "In these papers." He gestured to the documents still in the pouch. Mr. Thompson sighed. "My father was an intelligence officer during the war. These are letters, reports, things he sent back home before he vanished. He always told me they were important, that I should keep them safe." His gaze darkened. "I never thought they'd be hidden in my own van." Rodriguez carefully flipped through the pages, his expression shifting as he scanned the old documents. "These aren't just letters. These are classified wartime reports." He looked up at Thompson. "Do you know what's in them?" The old man shook his head. "I never read them. My mother always said they were for my father's eyes only. After she passed, I didn't have the heart to go through them. So I hid them." The weight of history seemed to press upon them all. Here, in a forgotten forest, inside a long-lost van, lay secrets from a war fought generations ago, secrets that had remained untouched until now. Rodriguez exhaled slowly. "We'll have to report this." Mr. Thompson nodded solemnly. "I understand." The officers, despite their initial doubts, now understood why the van meant so much to this man. It wasn't just about the vehicle. It was about everything it held: love, loss, memories, and now buried truths from a time long past. Rodriguez and Reynolds exchanged a look. "Mr. Thompson, we'll make sure you get this back, the watch, the album. But these documents we need to check with the department." The old man simply nodded. "Just let me have one last moment with her," he whispered, patting the van's dashboard affectionately. While the officer stepped back, giving him the space he needed. As the sun began to dip beyond the treetops, the old man sat inside his van one last time, flipping through the pages of his past, his memories alive once more.